Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome back to Nova Aetas Renaissance. This is video number 7. So in this video, we are going to go over all of the enemies. We're going to do all the core box as well as the stretch goal. It's not going to take too long to go through each one. They don't have a massive deck and stats like all the heroes do, but there is a lot of them. Which is fun. The more guys you have, the more interesting the game is definitely going to be. I just noticed I'm missing some guys. There, it's him. Yeah, so every enemy is, in case you missed the first bunch of parts, just again, I like to do my quick reviews over each one. Video 1, overview of the game. Video 2, we went through the tutorial, kind of the rules, basic idea, and then we've been picking up little things as we go along. So if you didn't see something in that video, you might need to check the corresponding video, like we talked about the heroes in the hero spot. Video 3 and 4, we went through the core set heroes and all the stretch goal heroes. So 4 in each of those, as well as we went over the companions as well. In video 5, we went over all of the equipment, and some other various miniature cards, like injuries and reagents and stuff like that. Video 6, we went over the tiles, the map tiles, as well as the scenic elements, the buildings, and some more of the extra random tokens we had for the game. And now we're in video 7 for going through all the enemies. So all the enemies in the game are going to consist of 4 components, for the most part. They're going to have the model, which we're going to have anywhere from 1 to up to 6 miniatures for each one. So there's some characters that only have 1 model, maybe because they're a boss character, or maybe they're more of an important figure in the thing, and then we're going to kind of go down. Some of them have 3 for like mid-level type characters, usually like the rank 2 stuff. So like level 1's usually like, elite type characters, so you're not going to face them as often. And then like the 5s and 6s are usually your rank 1s, which are more of like your minion troopers. We get more like in the monster category than we do the humans. So we get, I think, for each of the 6. They're also going to have a little token, their activation token, which, just like the heroes, goes on the hologram, keeps track of where they are in their time. Then they're going to have 2 cards. They're going to have an enemy card or a profile card. So the profile cards are ones that are going to be found in the actual, like, scenarios. So, like, for example here, and we'll look at these a little bit more. I have one of them pulled aside, but we have the Cardinal, who's the miniature, but during the actual campaign, he might be specifically Egidio. And so we'll look at kind of how that works. Then the other thing they don't show on here is a draft card, which is a tiny little small version of character cards. Doesn't have as much information on there, but that's because there's sometimes there are scenarios they'll tell you to draft certain enemies. So you're not, you might be like, I'm facing specifically this guy and this guy, and then the enemies are going to be like any of the Roman enemies or any of the Italian, the Venice enemies. Or myth enemies or whoever, and you're not going to know who exactly you're fighting, which kind of then makes even if you play the campaign multiple times, you're not going to always be fighting the exact same thing 100%. So it takes away a little bit of that puzzle element, at least a little bit. So enemy cards are going to have a bunch of stuff that we need to look at. So we have, of course, the name at the top. We have, in C, we have our different stats for just like all the heroes. Except they have a defense symbol instead of attack symbols for their physical and psychic attacks. I'm just showing that. As their control determines the number of squares heroes able to locate the most danger, so that's where they can see far from. So instead of having a dexterity, that's how far away they can see guys. So they don't have infinite vision, across the entire map for some things. That's where they're kind of look for what they're trying to attack. They're not going to run across the map and hunt down one enemy. And then, of course, their health. So we have B on there, which has the number 2. It's identification number. It shows the number of the enemy activation tokens used for quick identification. So on the back of their token, they're going to have a little number you can flip over as well. For some people, that might be easier to do. Is have the back of the token flipped over and look at the number, versus having it there. And it's like each color is going to have its own. So like Rome is red, Janus is blue, Primeval, which are the monsters basically, are green. So each one will have their own numbers, and then that way, in case you can't see what the picture is, you can flip it over and go by the number. Might just sometimes be easier, because eventually some of these knight-looking characters or centaur-looking characters all kind of start to look alike. So then E is their basic attack. Sometimes they might have multiple attacks. It is very possible. But yeah, you got maybe like a physical and a ranged. And then of course there's their crit with F, works the same way as the heroes. The only big difference here is damage. So this cost 3, range of 1, it does 3 damage, and then you have to test 7 for defense. And that's the only thing that's really basically different about it. I is a protection, so it says, I scroll up here, it is generic skills. The enemy has all the generic skills listed here. Consult the handbook for each one. So some will have various different abilities. So G is their classification, so whatever faction they belong to. This is their reagents you pick up when you defeat them, and that's their rank, because there will be various things that will reference the rank. So we definitely want to make sure we mention that. So I just want to look at the enemy attacks here. An enemy will perform an attack. Usually have only 1 attack, but sometimes have 2. When this happens, follow the rules of the electric skill. Check whether the attack is performed as attack or psychic. Consider the following rules. Enemy profile does not include a target, because enemy models will always target heroes. They will never have a way to like target or heal other characters unless an ability says something like, if you do this, crit, like healing an ally or something. So apply all effects to the attack trick before the crit symbol. Enemy spends an indicated number of time. Must be within range. Apply in order of effects of negative status token positive. Enemy deals number of hits target equal to the indicated value. The target hero performs a defense test, usually physique, with a success threshold indicated. After the dice roll applies the following things. So then you apply all your other tokens and all that stuff. For each success obtained by the hero, cancel 1 hit. Each hit not canceled inflicts 1 damage. If the attack inflicted at least 1 damage, the hero has been placed on it has not been placed on an equipment card. It's going to successful, and they do their crit effect. So basically works like a hero, like a hero's attack. As long as they hit, they do damage. Psychic attacks are going to work a little bit different. So we still have our time, our range, but then for E there, we go all the way down to where E is. The number of successes attained by the defense test is equal to or greater than the indicated attack. So their attack is 2. So if they have at least 2 successes of rolling a 5 or more on the die, so that they roll dice every 5 they hit succeeds. On that one, they'd have to hit 8s to block the 1 damage. Here, they have to hit at least 2 5s to block the damage. And let's just apply the crit. After the symbol, it does the damage. So just like a magic attack would work. But just also there's a crosshair, so they do have some effects like that too. So as of course, when an enemy would have wound tokens equal to their value, they're immediately defeated. Wounds leading to defeating an enemy are inflicted by a model molesting to the one who's defeated. Enemy is removed from the battlefield. Act removing the defending model, draws and revealing reagent cards. Defeated enemy inflicted with status token provides reagent cards normally, but is not considered to have been defeated by any hero. So if they're like poisoned and they die, you still get your reagent cards, but you didn't defeat them even if you inflicted the poison. If a hero defeats an enemy inflicting more than enough defeated, the X is still considered inflicted by a hero for a purpose of applying effects and counts as point class. So if it says, if you did 3 damage, then do this effect, and they only have 1 health point, but you still inflicted 3 damage to them, you still get the 3 bone. It counts as doing 3. And then if the removed enemy is the last type, also remove the corresponding activation token. So if there are 3 of the guards out in the game, they're all going to use the same activation token. There's not going to be activation token 1, 2, and 3 for each guard. They're all going to act whenever that one thing goes up at the same time. But if you get rid of all 3 of them, then it will obviously be able to activate. So it's a fully cooperative game, so they're using AI. So AI Mission set by enemies to always take priority over any other factor. And be naughty. Any good story would not be as such. There is no antagonist to equal heroes, able to put them in difficult situations, and always staying one step ahead. In dubious situations, always make the best choices for the enemies. And this is kind of talking about the draft. I'll look at that towards the end when we look at the draft stuff. Because there's like just a sample of what a draft card is. I think at the very end of the handbook. For a look at the actual enemies, I want to look at the handbook quick. We did have artificial enemy intelligence. So this is just kind of how they're going to activate. So it's going to ask if during the mission, and this is going to be on the mission card, not on the not on the actual character card. I was trying to see if I had a mission laying here that said what it does. I do not. I had a different mission card laying there. This says, does the active enemy have a mission goal? See the enemy's goal in the mission card section. If it is to attack the heroes, they're going to check and they're going to look for heroes. If it's check controller, if there's at least one hero who has premium greater or equal to the mission's goal, they're going to attack them. So some of them might just force them to automatically attack, and they're going to look for whatever hero that's closest to them, they're going to try and get them. So yeah, if there's a hero or they can see someone with that, enemy must choose their target, the highest probability of tie, choose their closest one. And then they do the attack checks, do all that. If there are no enemies around, enemy's goal becomes attack the closest hero. In equal distance, at equal distance, the target hero will attack the highest probability of tie to the hero with the most tokens if it persists. So then they're going to want to move. So they're going to want to then move to them. Enemy moves the minimum distance. So if either one, they found an enemy or they can't find an enemy, can they get to them? They're going to try and get to them. Yeah, so then they're going to try and do that. Moves a minimum distance to their target. Attack a check. Now they're in range, they can do it. If they are not in range yet, they still can't get it, they're not going to attack. So if they can see a guy, hey, there's that guy there, I need to attack him. He's 6 spaces away, I can only move 5 spaces. He'll move 5 spaces and he'll stop. He won't do anything else. But so he'll try and get there. Otherwise, then we have attack target, and then they'll just do the attack. Then we have way up here, if they check the control area, it says, was there at least one hero greater than there? If there was, then they'll try and attack. If there was not, then they'll see, can the enemy achieve their mission goal in the activation? So that's going to be basically, they're saying, like, I need to do this thing. Like, I need to, like, break open this door, or I need to, like, do this object. I'm doing something that's not defeating whoever is near me. So I'm going to first look to make sure there's no enemies around me. If there are, I'm going to obviously attack them. Then if there's not, they're going to be like, okay, I'm going to go back to my goal. So like, can the enemy achieve their goal? Nope. Are there heroes who are preventing them? Yep. Okay, then the enemy comes to attack the closest thing. So there's an enemy they can attack, so go after it. It says, yes, they can achieve their goal. They're going to keep moving towards their goal until they have it. It might be leave the map. It might be do this, do that thing. So various things they can do. So it's pretty simple on what it wants them to do. But it's still very interesting how it works. All right, so then we have Electric, which we mentioned earlier. An enemy has a skill, always has 2 attacks. They use the left attack profile if they're not adjacent to a hero, and the right one if they have at least one adjacent hero. So basically, they have a ranged attack if they're not adjacent to a hero, and if they are adjacent to one, they'll use the right one. So they're going to try and attack someone next to them first, but if not, they'll fall back and they'll try and use their shooting ability if they can't. Awesome. So let's go ahead and look at some of these things before we jump into that, actually. So we have, for the blue characters, we have Venice. So we have a noble, a gypsy, we have 3 arquebusers, 3 gunslingers, 5 Moldolian guards, and 5 Stragots. So what was cool is during the crowdfunding campaign is originally these 2 and these two were 10. They were 10 of the same miniatures, and then they're basically like, you have a special noble, a special gypsy, and then you have 10 of one type of enemy, or 10 of another minion type character, foot soldier. But then they split up to 3 of each, or 3 of each of these, and then 5 of each of these. So it kind of helps to spread it. Maybe just these two are the 10 each, and they just split them all. I could be wrong on that. But they did split them up, which is nice, because then we get more different miniatures to play as different stuff. So Rome also, in the core set stuff, has a Cardinal, a Nun, 3 Papal Guards, 5 Swiss Guards, 5 Swiss Keepers, and 3 Sacred Guards. So you get some different there. And then we have the Primeval. So you have a Witch, a Bully, 3 Warriors, 3 Marauders, 6 Swingers, and 6 Lancers. So yeah, we did this roughly the same thing again. We get 6 of each of these instead of 5, but we get the same rough number of everything. So those are our 3 main classes, and these are green, red, and blue are the different classifications. Then if we hop into our stretch goals, we're going to get some more characters as well. So the stretch goals is going to add, so it's going to show it has all their different stuff. It's going to add some more primeval characters. We have a Huntsman, we have a Butcher, we have a Celtic Guard, and an Explorer. But I think we have multiples of some of these. I don't like that it didn't list it. We have multiple. I think we have 3 Explorers and 3 Celtic Guards, and then 1 of each of the other 2, if I remember right. Then we have 2 brand new extra characters. We have for Aetas, we have a Spy and we have a Succubus. And I don't know why they put it on a different page. For Rome, we have the Knight and the Inquisitor. So they each get 1 more bigger character. Then we also have a brand new faction called the Mercenaries, which are kind of in black. So we get a Clockmaker's Golem. The Mercenaries are working kind of interesting. So what they do is when you're playing them and you draft them, since they're not listed in the core game at all, they can then fall in anytime it says, oh, draw Roman characters. You can instead draft Mercenaries instead. So again, it makes that thing we can add brand new characters in there, because they can basically, and then as that, if they're being filled in for a Roman character, then they're going to be a Roman character considered. They're basically being hired. We also have a Scarecrow, a Dark Magician, a Technomancer, and we have 3 Dolls. And then what's also interesting about these guys is they have their own stretch goal missions, which they'll be used in there as well. We do have 2 Myths in here. So Myths are basically big giant boss creatures you have to hunt down. Whereas more of these are going to be in expansion sets and stretch and crossover stuff as well. But we have the Chimera and Arcane. A Spider. So we're going to get more of those as well. I noticed the one thing they didn't list in the core book, which I didn't see, unless I just missed it, was the bear. We also have the bear in here as a first hunt. It's the first enemy we get a hunt. I think it might just be a token. It might not actually have a miniature now that I think about it. Because it's only 1 type of mission, I just don't think they added it in there. Yeah, so that's the thing. So let's go ahead and pop in and start looking at the cards. Alright, our first, we'll go through the Roman army first. Whoops, I just threw him across the table. My thing does not always want to grip these guys very well. Alright, sorry about that. We're going to go through the Roman enemies first, and then we'll go through the Aetas, and we'll kind of go that direction. So here's our Cardinal. The Cardinal is going to be one of these characters that's going to actually, like, in the context of the story, he's going to be replaced a lot by other specific characters throughout the game, like we saw earlier. But yeah, definitely a neat little miniature. So every time he is, he'll just be represented as that character, and it will explain that. And we'll look at that after the end of the characters. We'll look at that. So here's all his stuff. I'm not going to go through every single little, read off all the full stuff for all the effects. We can kind of see them if hopefully you went through and you watched both of my hero videos already, so we already went through lots of the abilities. But you can see he has pretty good defense. 6 health, 6 defense for both of his stuff. Does 3 damage. If he hits you, he's going to burn you and stun you, which means you have to spend extra 2 points beginning your next turn to recover, and you're going to take some damage. But he also has Protection 4. So I looked at some of these new ability keywords we haven't seen before with our regular characters, because the enemies have some extra abilities there. So he has Protection X. So this model assigns a shield skill to all different models of the same faction within X space. So then shield says all physical attacks in his model performed by rolling 1 less die. So anyone within 4 spaces of him all of a sudden gets protection. So he's gonna make you have to really fight his guards a lot more. He's also a rank 2. Now there's rank 1, there's rank 2, and then there's monster rank, and yeah, right here. So we have Trooper, which is rank 1, Elite, which are rank 2, and then Monster is the other one. So basically, if they're a monster, they're usually like the myth characters. The Primey, believe me, I keep calling them monsters, aren't technically monsters, according to this. They're just another race. There's human race, and then there's like the forest race, essentially. But yeah, so that's our Cardinal. So to do a quick look at this, just to kind of show this off. So we're, spoiler for Heaven's Gate 2.5. We're not going to spoil what's all in there, but this is just the setup list for this. So it's going to tell us to use 3 Swiss guards, a papal and none, a Swiss guard, 1 noble, and 1 cardinal as Agility and Elgadio. Your houses, your well, your bush, all the other stuff you're going to use. And it's going to show you where to put those specific characters, where to put your noble, your cardinal, and then all your other different characters. So it's going to have you use them. And then if we look at the map, it's going to show us where to put all that different stuff in there. It's also going to tell you where to put them. But now, from now on, it's going to list them as their names. It's not going to list them as the miniatures. And it's going to tell you to read that. But what we'll get here then, let me zoom out a little bit here so we can see the other card, is we have a new card for him. So it uses the same artwork to help keep track of it. It has Rome. But we're going to get these throughout the game. And now some of these are going to be enemies. Some might be allies. Some might be NPCs. There's a couple like active civilians. They're just people in town that you might have to interact with or do stuff with. But you can see he has different stats. It's 5, 7, 6, 7, and 12. So he has a lot more health because he's not just a general cardinal, but he's specifically this character. His attack is different. He has a psychic attack instead of a melee physical attack, and if he does, it gives him weak. But he also has Fate, Heal 4, and Sniper. So if we just look at that quick, see what some of those abilities do, because we haven't seen those before. So Fate here says, this model has the following benefits. It is immune to any forced movement effects. The critical trait X has no effect on this model. The hero starts a critical, still increases your Perlium by 1, and cannot be blinded, poisoned, or stunned. So basically, he's like a mini-boss, is basically what these are. So instead of just fighting a higher-ranked elite character, you're fighting essentially a mini-boss. He has Sniper, which you've seen, just lets him not have to worry about line of sight. And then his other ability was Heal 4, which says, at the beginning of this model's activation, all other models in this faction within X range discard 1 damage. So you gotta just sit there and be healing guys. So the other version's protecting guys. This guy's just straight up healing them. Then he also has some other abilities. Pungent Infidels, my hero, or Adolgali. I'm going to keep messing that name up. Inflicts at least 1 damage on him. They gain a disadvantage token. If they already have one, they suffer 2 unblockable damage. So this kind of hurt to punish you for attacking him. He has Faith Tremblaze. If he is defeated, the party adds has reward card number 14 to the loot. Or not record card, achievement card number 14 to the loot. But yeah, so yes, so here's just gonna hit a standard thing. Doesn't have any other special abilities on the bottom, and then this 2 on here is just mentioning that it is card number 2. That's all that means. But then we also have seen, yes, his stats were fairly different. And I'm not going to compare this from what we have one for Vanus. We have Adelaide. We want to see his. He has Sturdy, Ally. He has Pierce Parrot. Beginning of his activation, he does not already have one, getting a shielded token. When he suffers his 8th damage, which is his health, then you read that. And then on the bottom here, it says Proteum is equal to the highest amongst the number of heroes minus 1. So yeah, he's gonna have equal to the highest program among all the heroes minus 1. So he's gonna look for that person. He has Pierce, he has Sturdy, and Ally. So I just looked at Sturdy does. We haven't seen that one before. Mild not getting bleeding or eviscerated tokens, so it's pretty strong. And then his other one was Ally. So we have Allies that is considered to be a hero for the purpose of the game effect resolutions. Hero players can target them as if they are normal heroes. Players can roll the dice for ally tests. If a specific goal indicates for a mod to skill, players must use his best ability to pursue that goal. Otherwise, they may freely choose what actions they have it perform. See the ally entry book. So there might be something in the thing that says what he's specifically trying to do. But his Perilium for enemies attacking him is going to be like whatever the heroes are. So he's always going to be one less, so he's not going to be the highest. But he might be the highest within sight. Okay, so I'll just kind of see what those guys do. We just wanted to get an idea of how that works. Now we can jump back in and look at the rest of these guys. Cool. Alright, so up next, let's look at, we're just going to look at these in card number order. So on the back here, we just see him. I'm going to flip it back over so we can see who this specifically is. And this is the Papal Guard. Yeah, so like knight characters. Like, or not knights, but like armored warriors has the Roman crest on there. She's like the 2 keys. It's got a big giant hammer mallet, which is very threatening. Plus, I love they all have kind of like capes or cloaks, which I think is really cool. So he has, 5/5, so you can see his stats there. He has stun and tackle, so tackle means if he hits a guy, he shoves him back, he falls him through. It's kind of like a shield bash. He has protection too, so he's going to protect guys around him. This is one of the guard characters, and then we have and he's going to give his stuff there. So the guard characters are listed as elite characters, a little bit higher. We have the Sacred Guard up for number 3. Let me take a look at his miniature. So he's wielding a big giant mace instead. He's got the crest on the back of his thing. He's got a sword there in case he needs it. But yeah, it's even neat that they made them completely different characters. You have lots of games that'll make your models and be like, oh, you had, 5 skeletons. So we gave one where he has a sword up and one where he has a sword down. Here they literally they took the characters and they made them into different characters. So instead of giving us 6 of these guys or 10 of the other guys, which should all be the exact same enemies over and over and over, now we have 3 and 3, so if we're playing with them, you can swap in the other guys. Now, I think most of the time it's going to call for the first named one, which is probably what they originally were. So you're going to have a lot of the same there, but it's going to give you the option to have the draft ability to add these other guys in here, or if you're playing your own special missions, your creative missions, you're going to have a lot more variety, which I think is fun. They'll have to go buy an expansion pack. So this Sacred Guard here has a melee attack. He also has Pierce, which I don't think we've seen yet. Which is not even on this page. It's on the other page. Here we go. Damage played by this attacker unblockable. So basically, he's just an unblockable character. You can still, roll dice and try and prevent the damage. If you roll enough, because you roll 8 with your thing, he's gonna do 1 damage. It says the damage is unblockable, but if you get it, you might still be able to like block it and put it like on your armor and stuff like that. There's no reason not to roll for it, just in case. Cool. So that's our third guy. Then we're going to jump to the troopers, which are our smaller guys. We'll see these guys a lot more. We have the Swiss Guard. These guys don't have as much armor on. But this guy's a big old giant sword and a little tiny axe. Little hand axe. And there's like a little dagger on the back of his thing, all over the little feather in his helmet. So this guy does have two different attacks, but they're both melee. So basically, he's going to attack with one of his weapons versus the other. Is that axe? Oh, that is not just an axe. Does this show the picture better? It does not. So, he has... his first one is his ranged ability. So it says reload 2 and bleed. The second one is a melee. So what this is... I'll see if I can zoom up on this. This is actually cool. I didn't even notice this until I read his ability. I'll move that down here. Come on, focus. This is a flintlock pistol. It might not be a flintlock, but it's a basic pistol. But he has a little axe attached to it, as a kind of like a bayonet type idea. That is actually, I've never seen that before. It's not a terribly dumb idea, right? It's obviously you have to be used to using it, because if you have any weight on your gun, it's gonna obviously set off your aim. But, you practice with it, right? Like that, if someone gets close, you still have a little baby axe to use instead of your big sword, which might take range. That's pretty cool. I didn't even notice that. I love that. And this is probably all historical things. I just didn't know that's what that was. Yeah, so he's going to be a short... So they always try and use his ranged attack first. But if you're closer than 2 range, he's just going to attack you with his other weapon instead. Which is what he's going to do. Alright, then our next one is the Swiss Keeper. So we have the Swiss Guard and the Swiss Keeper. So he's got a big halberd, plus a big sword as well. So he just has one, but he also has reach. Which reach just means you can hit up to a higher level, or down a level. But you can see their stats are different, right? So between the two of them, one has 4 for the time, one only has 6, or one has 6, but they have different range to be able to see stuff. He has a little bit lower defense. So he might not have as much armor. But they give the same rewards, which is nice. But yeah, if you only got one of these, if they only had one, you probably only have the guy that was just ranged or short range, or ranged or melee. This guy's kind of like a middle, you can kind of hit a little bit of a distance, which is very cool. Our next character that we only have one of is the Nun. So the Nun will occasionally appear and do some stuff for us. Sometimes she'll be a specific character, because she's a higher level characters. Most of the time she might just be the Nun. This is kind of like the support class-ish for the enemy characters. So she has heal 4, barrier 4, cowardice. Kind of decent stats still, but she does a psychic attack as cross area, and she does disadvantage. Cowardice is a new ability we haven't seen. The cowardice says, if there are no other models of its faction on the battlefield, its enemy immediately removed from the game. Heroes do not gain its loot. So, she's there to kind of help out, but if you take out you can focus on taking out everybody else, and then she'll leave. But on the other hand, if you wait too long to take her out, she's going to keep healing everybody. She also has Barrier X. The model increases by 1 the defense value of all other models of the same faction with her. So she can sit back and prevent from, psychic, which are usually your ranged attacks. Alright, so that's the core characters. Then we do have some from the stretch goals we'll go ahead and look at for this faction. We have the Knight. So the knight is not going to fit on my dial now, nor my bigger one is at the moment. So we'll just hold them up here for a sec. So a knight is a trooper, but we only get one of them. Because if you're in town, you're not going to probably have too many horse troopers in town. But he is a bigger character, so he's going to take up multiple spaces on the board. Multiple, instead, so it does make him a little bit beefier, a little bit easier target as well. But he has charge, runner, bashing, and heavy. He has pierce and bleed. So charge, we haven't seen. At the beginning of its activation, if the opposing model is chosen as a target, maximum 5 squares away, this model moves to become adjacent to it, spending all its time, and then it attacks the target at the end of its activation. Bashing is meaning any forced movement, so you can't move him because he's not a horse. But that's cool. So if he does, if the opposing model chosen as a target is a maximum of 5 squares away, he's just going to charge and do a free attack on them. So he doesn't need to move 5 spaces and attack. It's basically his horse is going to move for him. What was the other one on there? Runner? I don't see runner. Okay, there's runner. For each space spent to move, this model may move 2 squares. So if he has to go farther, he can get across there better. And the other one was heavy, which is not listed there. Is it listed on this page? It is not. That might be a brand new one for the stretch goals. They just didn't add in there. I'm guessing it just means he can't be moved. Let me check. Alright, so I had to look up heavy because it wasn't in the rule book. I think it got missed. Heavy just means they can't climb anything, which makes sense. A guy on a horse can't be climbing up the side of a building. So definitely makes sense there. Alright, our last Roman character is the Inquisitor. So of course we have to have a holy man. So here is his miniature. It's a big cross spear, which is really neat. A bunch of scrolls on him. Like a cross stake. Alright, and he has another electric ability, so he's going to be able to do 2 things. So he's going to be kind of like the magic user. So it's kind of fun, because like all the other guys so far have sort of been like little melee, little like range stuff. The nun could obviously do some range magic. But now we have another guy that can do it too, which makes it a little bit more fair when you're playing like against Rebecca, who can like cast fireballs and stuff, right? So he has a burst area. He has cursed and marked. Or he can have spear area. So if he's doing a physical attack, he actually hit multiple spaces in front of him. 2 spaces also just cursed and mark. And he has barrier force. He's going to protect the guys around him. So I kind of see if that's we'll see, and then sort of the theme we're going to kind of find with this is that, like each faction is going to do its own type of thing. So these guys have a lot of stuff. They're protecting each other. They have barriers. They have heal. They have the protection skill. They're going to be kind of doing that stuff. So alright, let's hop into our other next faction of Venice, who are in the blue. So we're going to start with the Stragot. So I'm just going by card number 1 up at the top, so it's not necessary. So these are ones that I think we have 5 of, because they're the ranked ones, the troopers. So he's doing double axes. You can already see the difference there. Like some of the other guys, they had shields or longer range. Here's a couple of close range axe weapons. So he's going to have just damage of 4, and he's going to do bleed. So he's going to do some serious damage right off the bat. And then kind of like his counterpart is going to be the Arquebuser. I think I'm saying that right. Arquebuser. So he's got a very interesting model stance here. Let's see if it'll focus back up on him. So he's got a big giant like bladed weapon here. But he uses it to hold his gun as like an aiming tool. But if he could do melee, he definitely could. But yeah, instead of like having a pistol like the other guy had, he has a big old like rifle. So neat. So yeah, he has reload too, and he has pierce. And he has shooter. It's kind of neat if he would have had the alternate, the electric ability as well, so he can do both. And then he does have the shooter ability, so now since he's kind of aiming, he can avoid some of the other terrain and stuff, which gives him a little bit more variety as well. Our next one is kind of the complement to the nun, or the opposite of the nun, is we have the gypsy. So, like, if Rome is kind of like the nobles, these are kind of like the, I don't want to say peasant folk, but they're kind of more like the outcasty folks kind of thing. So here's hers. She has a gypsy, she has some cards in her hand. So she also has a psychic attack. Cross area, and she does some burning. Up next, we have the opposite of the Cardinal, who's going to be the other miniature we saw for the campaign, which is the Noble. So we're going to see a lot of him. He does have shield, so he's going to protect his guys a little bit. Now, I think, and I'm not 100% positive, but I think majority of the enemies are Rome. Like, the idea for the most part of the campaign is you're fighting off against Rome, at least in this, and then maybe some of the expansions might push it a different direction. And it's kind of like, then you occasionally get into tussles with Venice, or they're fighting with Rome, and you're kind of like in the middle of that, and then the Primeval, which are like the forest folk, you kind of have to deal with that, maybe getting between areas, like traveling. I think like you're, and there might be other things. I'm not trying to. I haven't read through the story because I don't want to spoil it for myself yet. But I also don't want to spoil it for you guys. But I think like a lot of the time you're fighting are watching the Roman guys, and then the other guys will kind of pop in and they'll be like, "Hey, we're here to mess with you as well." All right, then we have our other elites here for Vienna. We're going to have our Gunslinger. So it's like these guys are going to have a little bit more ranged attacks than some of the melee stuff. They don't have all the extra protection spells and all that stuff, like the shields and all that. Scooch that over. But look at what he does have, though. He's going to try and do Pierce first. That's a crazy looking gun as well. And then reload too. But if you get close to him, he's going to have probably a dagger he's going to pull out and poison you. So very cool. And then we have a guy with a little bit of armor and a sword. And this is our Moldovan guard. Now, he's not using it, but I believe the point of the thing in that shield is so he can hold his shield up and then stab his sword through it instead of stabbing over it, so he can still be protecting himself. I believe that's the point of that. But yeah, he's a guard, so we do have a guard with a little bit of armor. But again, he doesn't have all the like big metal armor that the other guys did. But he does have shields, so we have another shield guy, and he has similar poison. See, we have shooters and a poison. So, the NS guys are going to be able to, like, hit you, snipe you from a distance, and if you get close to them, they're going to poison you and take you out that way. Then for the stretch goals, we have one of each of these. We have some fun ones here. So we have a spy. So we had the Knight and the Inquisitor, and now we have a spy instead. So I like that these go like a very different direction. So kind of like, I guess, to sort of match the Inquisitor, because he also has some range, or so some ranged attacks. But yeah, just an interesting character you might see around. Very Renaissance-y type costume as well. It's obviously the era. But she has a burst attack with poison and weak, and if you get close to her, she's going to pierce you. But it's a melee attack that does 2 to 5 range for for a burst. And she has sniper as well. So again, we're getting that sniper, we're getting that poison, we're getting pierce damage. So pretty nuts. Then the last one, which is a very, very different one, is we have a succubus. So like so far everyone else has been like regular people, but she's a trooper size, but we have a succubus here. So we get kind of our first like fantasy type creature in here. She's a big giant scythe. But I think it kind of goes with the whole thing of like adding some of the magic in here, you know, like the gypsies and stuff and the psychic attacks. So like, yeah, it kind of makes sense. So yeah, she has a cross area psychic attack as well as curse and stun. She also has fly. So it says this model ignores model scenic elements, height levels required during movement of this model. Does not cause reaction attacks and this movement on an available square. So when she does move around, she can get around a lot quicker, or she can snipe you from a distance. So yeah, which one you want to fight? You want to fight the guys that have lots of shielding and protection, so they're going to be a little bit harder to kill, and even if you do, they're going to have a bunch of healers. Or do you want to worry about the guys that are going to be sitting back sniping at you from a distance? It's very, very interesting. Alright, up next we have Primeval. So these are the forest folk. So we're going to start with the little guys. I think these are called Spriggans. Which is the race of what these little dudes are. So we have the Slinger. So they're kind of like goblins, more or less, is what I would probably relate them to. But so they have like hooves. They're kind of like, just like the folk in here, a lot of them are fawns, or like centaurs. So they're kind of like horse or goat men are the idea, and that's what these guys are kind of based off of. They're kind of like little tiny versions of like goat people, like satyrs almost. But yeah, he has little things. But we get 6 of him. These are little small guys. So we get more of him to actually fight against. And you see he has less health. So he has 3 health. Lots of the other guys had 5s and 6s. These guys only get 3. But he does have range 1 to 4, and he has poison. He has dodge, hoard 2, and climb. So you're going to be able to climb up buildings a lot quicker. Be able to dodge you, which always sucks. So dodges. When his model is suffering an attack, the attacker must reroll a success and keep the result. So he's going to be a little bit harder to hit. And then he has hoard. So hoard says, when a draft card with this skill is drawn, an enemy draft X models are placed on the battlefield instead of 1. Place an additional model adjacent to the first. If there are no free spaces, close as possible. The draft requires a model to be placed in more than 1 square, but not enough squares. For the available squares, draft another card. So what this means is if you draft a slinger, you're going to actually put out 2 of them. So they're always going to come out in a pair. So that's going to be a pain, right? To go with them, we're going to have the Lancers. So if we want the other side, the other versions of them. And these guys are chucking little spears. I love the little pouch. You can grab some spears out and check. Plus, it's really cool, like, action movement. Again, like I said, there's other games where they have multiple miniatures, and it's like, this guy has his arm up, this guy has his arm down. Like, lots of these guys look like they're kind of in action poses. Some are in, like, more casual poses. But yeah, they could have just made, like, again, the Spriggan 1 standing one way and then the Spriggan 2 standing the other. They can make them different. So this guy has shooter and horde. So just, again, it's going to be basically multiple. Again, most of them have 5 or 6 health. Otherwise, you just have 3, but you have to deal with 2 of them. And that's if you only have to summon 1 of these. You might end up having to summon this guy, like, horde this guy 3 times, right? Cool. Now we're going to get our little bit bigger guy. So we're going to get a warrior. So there's his full picture. So here's our warrior. He's got the short blade, big blade, but again, you see them like cloven hooved legs. He's got a tail running down. So again, kind of like deer or goat men. Again, like, he's a Spriggan. That guy might be just straight up considered a Satyr. A Satyr? Might be even saying that wrong. Alright, but what's this guy have? So he just full stuff, but he does 2 damage. No, nothing extra special in there, but he has Phalanx and immunity to stun. So he can't be stunned, so that's never good. And then he has Phalanx. It says model attacks against a target adjacent to another model of the same faction gets +1 damage. Model attacks against a target adjacent to another model of the same faction. It gets +1 damage. So if it is attacking, this model attacks against a target adjacent to another model of the same faction. I think it means if he's attacking a guy, one of his team are around it, because he's basically like they're a unit. That's the Phalanx is like a group collection of guys. They get so again we get the little Spriggan guys coming out, the Swinger and Lancer, and they can maybe help surround it and get by a guy. And then this guy does extra damage unless his allies are around him. So again, they're going to be kind of a lot of. So instead of having special other effects, they're just going to have a lot of guys on you. Alright, our next one is the Marauder. It's just a little bit different style. So he goes up to the elite size. He's got a little bit more on big old axe. But he's also got a shield. I love that the shield has a blade on it. That's really cool. There's just a little tail there. Braided hair even down the back. That's really neat. Alright, what does he do? So he has shield and Phalanx as well, but nothing extra special after that. Alright, then the last one for the core set is we actually have a monster-sized character. So we have the Bully, which we saw in some of the other videos, so he's more like a full Minotaur. Like a baby Minotaur. Because it's actually a Minotaur character. So here is his miniature. So he's got a huge axe, but he's got a lot of different armor and stuff on. And that's like a comparison. So like, this is one of our heroes versus like his size. And then here's like one of them little tiny guys. So yeah, he's quite a bit bigger. So he doesn't have heavy, so he can actually climb a building effectively. He has 10 health. So it's again like kind of like a little mini boss type character. So he's like the idea of like where we had like the Cardinal or I can't think of the other one was. But yeah, he's stun tackle. He also does charge, so he can move in quick. Does 3 damage. Pretty dang good. Cool. I think that wasn't the last of them. I'm wrong. We have more in here because we have to have 6 of each. It should have 2 more, if I am right. We have 1 more. To kind of match like the nun and the gypsy, is we have the witch. So I believe this is a fawn. So again, we have like the Spriggans, which are the little guys. I think Satyrs, which are like the male guys. The warriors, we have like the Minotaur looking guy, and then we have the fawn, which actually are one of these are a playable character in not this one, but there's a version of this race. It's playable in Black Rose Wars, which is cool. Also an enemy as well. She doubles as it one of the expansions. Yeah, so it's kind of cool. So we get like another, so we get a psychic magic user, but she also has heal, sniper, and trample. Burst area. Trample says, small can pass through squares occupied by opposing models and scenic elements other than buildings and trees during the movement, but must end on available squares. You can just run through stuff. Yeah, very cool. It's a very neat set of characters. Alright, then for the stretch goals, we actually got 4 brand new guys, I believe. For this class, I think they just wanted to beef it up a little bit. So we're going to start with the Explorer. So here we have a Centaur. So again, another forest type beast. Again, a little bit bigger, so I don't have a scanning for him right now. But again, wield a little double axes. It's got like the mask on, which is interesting. Yeah, they're kind of like deer, animal, like horse hybrid characters. He's got another axe there in case he needs. Is there 2 in there? Because you have 2 more axes in there. How many axes are you throwing these axes at people? He might be. His first one is a ranged attack, so he might be throwing the axes at people. I love that he's called the Explorer. I also like that they call them like that. Like, he's Explorer or Lancer instead of being like Spriggan A or Fawn B or Centaur. You know, like they're giving him kind of cool names. So yeah, he can throw an axe for bleed, or he can smash you for stun. He has runner, so he can double movement like the horse. And he has heavy, so he can't climb buildings, which makes sense. Then we have the Huntsman. So this guy is like a goat. Looks like a man goat. Kind of like the Outcast, it looks like. But yeah, he's kind of like a marauder. Looks like he lost an eye. But he's wielding double swords instead of the axes that all the rest of them are wielding. But he looks like, yeah, he's kind of like a warrior or a combat character. So he has spear area too, so he can stab forward. He does poison. He's immune to poison and distracted. We have 3 of this one. The other ones we only had, I think we had 3 of the Centaur guys as well, which I just said, not call them the Explorers, but we had 3 of the, we have 1 Huntsman, but we have, oh, that's number 10. Let's get number 9 first. Let's switch over. We have 1 of these. We have the Butcher. So this guy, I'm not sure if he's like if he's an animal type creature, he might be like a ram, maybe? Because he's a big boy. Look at that, big sickle and meat cleaver. Big old badge with all his stuff on it. With that meat hanging off the back. This is, you know, a butcher. Makes sense. Is that a hand? Does he literally have a hand on him? That's gross, but cool. A little bone sticking off of it. We're trying to see if we can see under there a little bit, but not too much. Kind of hard to get that focus. Yeah, just a big shield. Alright, so what's this big guy do for us? He says he has piercing and devastating and bastion as an ability. Bastion, which we saw before, just means you can't force move him at all. What does devastating do? I haven't seen that before. After physical attack does any amount of damage, the target suffers the same amount of damage. Oh, dang, he does double. He only does 1, right? But it's piercing, so it's unblockable. So basically, if he hits you, it's just crit for 2 every time. Like, every time he hits you, he's gonna whack you each weapon twice. Not super hard, I guess, but definitely enough. That's pretty neat. Alright, then our last one for this race, or faction, is we have the Celtic Guard, which we have 3 of these guys. So again, if we're looking at different animals, this horns make me think antelope. But I also like that we're getting female characters in here, that they're not just males. Because, yeah, it's like the females and the human are kind of regulated like, you'd say like female-y class stuff, like the nun, or the gypsy, or the spy. None of the guards are female. But yeah, here we're getting like a warrior, but some big old sickles, not scythes, but sickles. But yeah, getting extra female characters is always a fun thing, even if they're enemies. She has poison, she has climb too. She can get buildings really quick. Again, if she's like an antelope or a goat, that makes sense. They climb sides of buildings. Immune to poison and phalanx. Again, she wants to get her team all together. That is really cool. Alright, so the next one we'll look at is the mercenaries. Alright, first up we have the Scarecrows. Now, all these guys are stretch goal listed characters. And they have, so they're not going to appear anywhere in the main campaign for the mercenaries, but again, they can fall in there during the stretch goal stuff, and they have lots of stuff where they interact with that. I just want to read this quick. You can add the enemy card of a mercenary faction to any enemy draft of the Rome and the Aetas fractions. Always respect the limitations of the draft rank. Mercenary models consider all aspects of the model for which they have been deployed. And then it says myths here. You can add the enemy card of myths to any faction element for the primeval faction. Always respecting the limitation of the raft or the ranking. So it's kind of like neat. So we get these extra characters that can fit in and give you a little bit more, but they have a little bit more flexibility. Also, some of these characters will also double over as part of the Magister set for Black Rose vs. crossovers. But here's our Scarecrow. And we'll look at that in another thing. Yeah, so this is kind of interesting. So, like, we get, like, non-human type characters or outcast characters. So, yeah, there he is. Little lantern, his little hand wheat sickle, his cloak, and all his tattered stuff. Try to see if we can look at that face. Oh, someone who has the noose around there. So, yeah, very interesting. I was just wondering, we got a Scarecrow. I'm like, we got Chimera, which is kind of a lion. We have a Clockwork Golem, who could kind of be like the Kingman, right? Or if we have like a Wizard of Oz theme going on here. Seen some flying monkeys, right? Alright, so he has a couple of things here. So he has breath area, disadvantage, and bleed. I don't think we've seen breath area before, but that's kind of like a cross like that. The T-shape, not cross, I should say. Sniper and Fate. Fate is immune to forced effects. Critical trait X has no effect on him. He can't be blinded by poison, stun, immunity. So basically, he's like pretty standard, pretty good. So he's an elite model. So you can replace any draft card that says elite. So you can swap in instead of like, you know, for example, if it tells you to like throw at the Inquisitor, you can end up playing with him instead. And imagine how that would change up, right? And you could use that as a thing by adding them into the other game. If it tells you to draft characters into the regular campaign, if you want to replay it because there's 8 endings, you might want to draft some of these guys in here as well. And again, if you buy more expansions, they have some other expansions as well as some we haven't went through. They're going to add more different enemies. And the fun part about the drafting is when you play through the story the first time, you're going to look for the different endings. But because you can draft in different enemies, again, it's going to pull some of that sameness away from the thing. Like, yes, you might still know that my goal in this mission is to get to here or do this or defeat the enemies. But if you have different enemies to deal with, it's going to definitely change up how it works. Next up is we have the Clockwork Golem, or Golem, depending on how you want to say it. So he's another bigger guy. I think he was like supposed to be based off of like a Da Vinci plans. But yeah, he's a big guy. He's a little chimney on his back. Big barrels in there. Very cool. It kind of makes it look like he has a face with the little things, but yeah, so definitely neat. So yeah, he has Fate, negative status effects, so he doesn't care if you poison him or stun him. He's like, I'm immune to all that crap. But yeah, he replaces the monster rank, which so far we've only had the one guy, the bully. That's the only one we've had with the monster rank, but they might have more here and there. But again, rather than having a fight, if he need to ever put a monster rank in one of the other factions, he can definitely step in. Otherwise, he is used for some of the other missions. Alright, then we have... Oh, I don't even need to move those. We have dolls. So we have these little creepy animated dolls. Again, we're kind of going fairy tale-y stuff. Or like lore, like this kind of like Pinocchio type style thing. But yeah, we get 3 of these. So these guys are going to be kind of a pain. There's a gun arm. They're definitely creepy looking. A little machete blade. Adds a little interesting horror element to the game, I suppose. So he has either a burn attack, which is probably his gun shoots flames, or he has a blade he'll stab at his big giant knife. Phalanx if there's other mercenaries, or whatever group he's working for at the time. And he has trample, so he can just... and it's kind of weird to say trample. It's more like sneak. They can just sneak by everything. Very interesting, though. Alright, then another, again, creepy type characters. We have the Technomancer. So we have robotic stuff, so why not have a guy that literally is kind of like a robot skeleton. It's like a robotic leg there. He's holding a fake mask he probably puts on not to scare people as much. Big old metal staff. All the ruiny things on it. Puts a stitching down the back. That's crazy, right? Like, the fact that they added that in there, too. Like, already enough you have all that stitching on there. And you got that. So he has a psychic attack with cross area, burned, and blind. He has barrier 4, so he's going to kind of help protect this guy. He is a rank 2. And our last mercenary in this set is the Dark Magician. So if we have magic users, why wouldn't we have an evil magic user? Interesting though, he's only a rank 1. But yeah, they also changed up his thing a little bit. So instead of having giant magic spells, he's carrying a big giant staff. But he still looks like he's casting stuff, which is really cool. I just wonder if they couldn't get the effects. His tape falling back is really neat. It's going to be a pain in the ass to paint some of that. There's so much detail on these guys. This is nuts. Alright, so he has Eviscerate and Curse. He's immune to stun and distracted. What does Eviscerate do? Oh, it just gives an Eviscerated token. Okay, and then they take more damage. Awesome. Alright, so we have, before I get to the last 2 miniatures we have, I want to look at some tokens quick. We do have a blue token for Venice and a red token for Rome. This is Pope and Dodge. So there is one mission eventually in the campaign where you have to play as these two. You have to fight against or work with these 2 characters. And you fight against both of them. So this just comes out, and you can basically, I think they tell you what specific miniature to put on there for the time to represent them like anything else. But they are unique. And part of the reason why, like, why didn't they just have it treat like any of the other ones? Because since this is a 2.0 game, it's a second version of it, they were part of the original campaign, but when this came out, they didn't make it, so maybe they just didn't hit enough stretch goals or whatever at the immediate time. So they threw these in as tokens at least so people can get them. But there is part of the, like, Wave 2 coming out for Nova Aetas, the second set of expansions. There is actually a pack of Pope and Dodge. So you can pick that up, and if you get those 2, it has those miniatures and all their cards, plus like an extra mission or 2 for them, campaign for them, so you can actually play some side missions against them. But then you can use their miniatures freely. But yeah, it's really cool that they have that. Then the last 3 things we have for characters is we have myth creatures. Or monsters, I should say, is the first one we have up is the bear, which is the prey. So all these different monsters will have... I am missing my deck for it. Where did I put that? Oh, it's up here. So, yeah, they will have, and we'll look at this in just a minute, look at it, but they have hunt decks, which are side missions you can do to fight certain enemies, and one of them's the bear. So they just call it the prey token in here, and I think the idea was, there's only one of them, and it's the only time you fight them. They're not available in any other regular mission. So they just made this token so basically you could put anything out, just puts it on the board to represent the bear, and then if you had... Eventually they thought, hey, if we add other ones later on and we don't make miniatures for them, you can always just use this token as a generalized token. Although, also having Black Rose Wars, there are bear tokens in there, so you can always play your bear out and use that. But yeah, I just say we don't have an actual token for those 3 characters. I just wanted to show that, or extra cards, because the hunt, when they do the hunt, they actually work differently. So we'll show them off in the campaign video, because the hunts work differently than just the regular enemies. They're a special side mission you have to fight against. Alright, so we're going to look at our other 2 quote-unquote miniatures, because they're not mini at all, is we're going to start with Arachne. So these are mythological characters, usually bigger, crazier to fight against. So I'm going to actually pull this out so we can get this out. So here's Arachne. She is a huge spider lady. Spider queen, with all those skulls down there. So like, as comparing her to like somebody else, like her human part is about the same size as a regular person, but height-wise, she's very much different. But then if we had one of our bigger characters, like our bully, he's pretty still decent compared to her. But it's the base size. He takes up maybe like 2 tiles. She takes up 4 tiles. And there are special rules that go with that. So we have, she has electric and fate. So you can add a bunch of stuff. She has burst area with hinder and stun, or breath area with poison. So either way, she's hitting a multiple range. She has 9 health. She's not going to be super easy to take out. But again, you could just play her as a regular enemy. If you are fighting against them as the hunt or as the prey decks, they have their own special attacks. So guys, you can do a quick look at, like, we look at the one for the bear, for example. Like, he has this card where this is what he's gonna do on his turn, and then turn 2 he'll do this, turn 3 he'll do this, and they have different attacks and things they want to do. So it changes up how they play. So if you're just fighting her as a normal enemy on the map, she gets put in place of a monster, or you're playing a side mission that calls her out, she's just going to play with all these stats. But if you're playing as her as a hunt side mission, as where she's a boss you're fighting, she's going to have different stats. Or she's not different stats, but she's going to have different attack patterns and stuff instead of just these 2. So they get a maneuver around more, because usually you're fighting them one-on-one. Then the other one we have is the Chimera. And there are more prey characters we get to play against from some, again, expansions and stuff. This is the one that has a weird style base. It's the only one that doesn't have a round base, but here's our Chimera. So it's the goat, lion, snake. So there's a snake tail, the lion, and the goat. Why do I want to say I thought they also had eagle wings? No, I'm thinking of a manticore that has the eagle wings, and the sphinx head, I believe. So yeah, he has burst area, poison, breath area, and bleed. So 12 health, electric, and fate. So they're pretty similar stat lines. A little bit more physical, a little bit more psychic on them, a little bit more health. But their damages look like they're roughly the same. 2 to 5, comparable against each other. Alright, so we have 2 more things we want to look at in here before we end the video that go with all the enemies. One super quick one are the draft cards. So, every single character on here is going to have, that we have a miniature for, will have a draft card. It's going to sometimes say some of their special abilities, just so we know about them. Gypsy, Shooter, the backs are always going to be the backside. Noble, Gunslinger, Mogovian Guard, Swinger with Horde 2, Shooter, Horde, Lancer, Warrior, Marauder, Bully, Witch, Cardinal, Papal Guard, and they're going to have their numbers up at the top as well. This is how many miniatures there are. So there's 3 of them. 3 Sacred Guards, 5 Swiss Guards, 5 Swiss Keepers, the 1 Nun, Stretch Goal added in the Spy, Succubus, Explorers, Huntsman, Butcher, Celtic Guard, not Celtic Guard, Cult Guard, the Knight, Inquisitor, Clockmaker's Golem, Arachne, Technomancer, Dark Magician, Chimera, Scarecrow, and the Gauls. So yeah, they're going to add all of those guys in there as draft cards. So how do draft cards work? So we'll take a quick look at that, because that is going to come up. So on some of the many mission required from drafts to introduce new random enemies to the battlefield. The faction of draft card being used. So A, so say use one, use primeval draft faction cards. Rank, what ranks to use, so then you only draw rank 2, and then it might say it excludes something or a potential thing. So it might say don't include witches, or don't include the guard characters or whoever, because they might be being used as a specific character, or maybe like they tried a mission, it's broken. And then it says if not present, place the draw an enemy token on the hologram sector, one of the following active. And then it might have something else that says, so one model for each square. This draft ignores the horde skill, so it might have special other things. So if we're summoning the Lancers or the Slingers, we only just summon one of each. All the steps are: form a draft deck with the draft cards of the enemy indicated by the mission. Draw a random draft card, reveal it to know which enemy to place on the battlefield. Place a drawn enemy model on each square indicated by the draft profile following these rules. The square where you should place the enemy model is not available. Place it in the nearest available square of your choice. If you do not have enough models of the drawn enemy to occupy all squares, draw a new card by repeating steps 1 and 2 until you have placed an enemy for each square indicated by the mission rules. If the hologram has already included the activation token of an enemy, you just enter the game, place your activation token on the sector that follows. Yeah, it's very simple. And then just kind of looking on the back here, it's just going to tell us artwork of the enemy, name of the enemy, rank enemy, faction, skills, may interfere with draft rules, so some might say horde or shooter, and then the number of enemies available is indicated by the draft. So yeah, very cool. Then the last thing we want to look at was something that was added in the stretch goals. This is technically part of, I think it's just part of the 5-6 player expansion rule. Is where it mentioned this, but we're going to go over with the monsters because it's directly related to them. I just got to find the page for them. Alright, let me move this off. I'm going to actually back my camera up a little bit for this so we can read this easier. So, there are Nightmare and Divine Help cards. These cards can be used if you are playing with a number of players greater or fewer than 4. Nightmare cards are designed for campaigns with more than 4 players and are used to upgrade enemies, to keep the level of high level of challenge. Divine Help cards, on the other hand, are used to weaken enemies when you are playing with 4 than fewer heroes and companions in place of the missing heroes. Both type of cards function the same way. They must be placed under an enemy card so you can see the symbols that match. Nightmare Divine Help cards apply to modifiers and characteristics of the enemies. All enemies represented by their characteristics get them. Other modifiers may affect characteristics of the enemy's attack. No modifier can bring a value down to less than 1. All modifiers that bring any characters below 1 must be ignored. In some cases, Nightmare Divine Help cards can add traits, generic skills to the enemy. So like they might add something special to them, or give loot, or the looting by enemy may be modified. So yes, it's kind of neat. Is there these extra Divine Help cards or Nightmare cards? Basically, make the game easier, harder. Now, could you apply them if you're playing a 6-player game? Could you add Divine Help to make the game easier? Sure. If you want an easier challenge with 6 people and you already don't feel like having 2 extra people is going to be easy enough, modify it. Heck, because again, like you can even add a bunch of extra companions. You got a 4-player game and add 4 extra companions or 2 extra companions to make it a 6-player game. If you want to make your game a little bit more easy, if you're just struggling, I always say the first rule of these games is to have fun. If you're struggling and not winning, it's pointless to play it, right? You may as well modify in a way to help it. But on the other hand, if you find the game's way too easy, even with 4 people, Like, oh, I played through the campaign once. Okay, I'm going to play again. Oh, it's starting to seem a little bit too easy because I know what's going on. Throw some hard cards in there. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and look at that. So what it's going to do is basically like this. Is we have a recruit card. So I'm just going to grab one of these guards here. So if I have the Swiss guard and he becomes a recruit, it's going to go up like that. So it's not going to like lay flat like that. It's going to go up a little bit so that each one of these symbols matches. So now he has -1 physical defense. So again, is that breaking the game? No, but it's not going to hurt either. You can kind of see where then the lines here match across. It's a very, yeah, so that's kind of how that's going to work. So we have like a novice, which is going to give us 1 less for his attack range in there. Unlucky gives him less psychic defense. Cursed, so like this is actually now interesting as well. So again, if we line it up with our ability, so his damage and check skills are -1 to a minimum of 1. So not only does 1 damage with his gun or 2 with his melee attack. So yeah, very, very interesting. Debilitated. Sick, which gives him 2 less health. Young, which gets some less stuff. So you might be like, well, why do we have one that does 1 with it? Because that way you can have multiple on the same thing. They didn't want to keep calling it the same stuff over and over. Inexperienced, we have injured, which is -2 health, and then coward. So it's basically going to reduce their either their psych ability to see what they can attack, their physical or psychic defense, their health, or it's going to reduce their damage. So again, it's only by 1 each. It's not doing anything super crazy like it's making them, oh, they're going to be 1 hit to kill or anything like that. But it's going to make them more manageable. Again, -2 health on like a Sprigging. I keep calling it Sprigging, like the Swingers or Lancers, who only have 3 health. Now they're down to 1. That's going to definitely be a big blow. If we want to make them harder, though, with the Nightmare cards. They're all black, just to show the difference. So this instead is actually going to make the game quite a bit more difficult. So not only give +1, +3, but it also gives out more reagents, so if you do defeat him. Now these guys are a little bit more punishing, but I think because going up in difficulty by adding more players is because that means you have more turns happening before the enemies might be able to activate. Because you could have 6 guys activate instead of 4 guys. Having 2 extra people activate and do 2 extra attacks, you kind of have to give them a little bit bigger boost. We have Commander. It's like this one here, just imagine that's even 1 extra sight, 2 extra health, 1 extra damage or check. But it also gives him 3 extra reagents. Relentless. Assassin. Like, ooh, that's even neat because he has +1 extra action. So none of the other ones dropped any of their actions. He has Hunter. Brute. So this is kind of fun. He has Shy. So +1, but -1 for range. But against Curse for his abilities. It's actually giving him an extra effect there. Survivor. Veteran, which has poison added, and Predator, which adds burn. Like I love with lots of the expansion stuff, these are really cool because they could add more of these in like a later expansion. Like they could bring out another one, or like they come out with like Nova Aetas 2. They could add new ones, and it's like, hey, if you have the original ones here, awesome. You have the new ones, you can mix and match them, just give me more stuff. They could make them a little bit more brutal, a little bit more things like the weak ones. Maybe they add like, give this guy a shielded token or something. They could add special abilities or effects like that. Some of these, they could do stuff like that too. Give them some other different, I suggest weaken wouldn't give them a shielded token. But they could give them other things, like maybe they start with bleed or something at the beginning of their turn. Yeah, they're going to take 1 damage, or these guys could hand out other stuff. Or even just having another set of these. So you might have multiple Predators or multiple guys like that. Could be also really cool. Alright, that's what we have for our enemies. So come back for the next video, and we're going to start looking at as much of the campaign stuff as we can kind of go through. We have side missions we can talk about how the campaign works, but we're not going to have too many terrible spoilers for the campaign. If you haven't checked out the previous videos, definitely go check those out. See you guys later. Bye.